Today is Thursday, November 28th, Thanksgiving Day here in the U.S. We are bringing you our special edition episode early this week to help you have better conversations as you gather with family and friends this holiday season. Do you ever feel put on the spot, or not sure what to say, or embarrassed after an awkward interaction? After today's discussion, we hope you feel less anxious and more prepared for everything from friendly small talk to big political disagreements. And we even go beyond the holidays so you can show up just the way you want wherever you are heading into the new year. Bringing us all these great strategies and advice for communication at work, home, and social situations is Matt Abrahams. He's a lecturer of strategic communication at Stanford's Graduate School of Business and host of the popular Think Fast, Talk Smart podcast. And because he's mastered the art of communication, he does a great job explaining his ways so we can all get better at it. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Matt Abrahams, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
I am so excited to be with you, Erica. Thank you.
So your podcast is called Think Fast, Talk Smart. Can you explain a little bit more of what that really means?
Absolutely. So we are all about helping people with their communication and careers. And when you think about it, communication is essential to our success, both in our professional and personal lives. And the podcast explores ways to help people hone and develop those communication skills in a variety of contexts and situations.
When it comes to thinking faster, if someone likes to feel prepared, how can they practice or get better at some of those off-the-cuff conversations or even in more high-stakes situations?
Most of our communication is spontaneous. It happens in the moment. And just like an athlete, you can prepare to be spontaneous. Athletes spend a lot of time practicing and doing drills. So when they play the game, they can move in an agile way. And we can do the same thing. So a lot of it has to do with mindset, how we approach these situations. And then there are tools that we can use, drills that we can go through, structures we can leverage. And all of that is what helps us to do better in the moment.
And how much is it managing anxiety? How can people manage that? And how much of an impact does that have on our communication?
Anxiety looms large in all communication, planned and spontaneous. Most people feel anxious in high-stakes communication situations. And when I say most, we have evidence that it's up to 85% of people. And I actually think the other 15% are lying. I've spent a lot of my career studying and working with people to help them feel more comfortable and confident. And it boils down to two things. It boils down to managing symptoms, that is, what it is we experience in our bodies and in our minds, and then also the sources, the things that initiate and exacerbate anxiety. I'll give two quick examples. Taking a deep belly breath, the kind you would do if you've ever meditated, done yoga, tai chi, qigong, where you really fill your lower abdomen. And the key is the exhalation. So you want your exhale to be twice as long as your inhale. And if you do that 2 or 3 times, you slow down the autonomic nervous system, relaxing many of those symptoms most of us feel. And in terms of sources, things that initiate and exacerbate, many of us, when we communicate, we want to do it right. We want to say the right answer, the best feedback. We want to be the most interesting in small talk. And that puts so much pressure on ourselves that it's really hard for us to do it well at all. So I like to tell my students, I simply say, maximize your mediocrity. Just get it done. Strive for mediocrity, and you free up resources to actually do it really well. So if we manage symptoms and sources, we can begin to feel more comfortable and confident in our communication.
And I think I've heard you talk about something that I connect with a lot too, which is focus on the other person, focus on the connection instead of the perfection.
Yes, I love saying that, connection versus not perfection. Communication is all about making sure the other person understands what it is you're saying. It is not about just broadcasting information. So if I am other focused and think about that connection, it really makes a difference. When I speak, when I teach, when I give a presentation, when I coach, I always say to myself, I am in service of my audience. And when I do that, it puts that attention not on me, but on them, which relaxes me and helps me focus and connect.
It is the holiday season, which means more parties, social gatherings, being around family and friends. So how can we make the most of these interactions?
I think a lot of what happens around the holidays is we set unrealistic expectations. Like, this will be so great. Everybody's going to be together. When humans come together, there can be tension. So part of it, I think, is just mindset and approach. The several things I'd say. First and foremost, we have to realize that communication is about sharing ideas. And when we share ideas, we might not always agree, but we can definitely show that we understand. Understanding and agreement are different, and they can really help us manage through some challenging situations. It is critical to demonstrate listening and to be present in these communications. And that can be hard when you've got the turkey in the oven and you've got the uncle and the aunt you haven't seen in a while and there's the young kids running around. But really trying to be present, focusing on what people are saying, demonstrating that you are listening and understanding, not just going, yes, yes, but paraphrasing, saying, highlighting that you've really taken something in can make a big difference. And being curious. A lot of us in small talk in general, but especially around the holidays, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be interesting. And the goal is to simply be interested. Just ask questions, be curious. My mother-in-law had a black belt in doing this, and her secret was 3 words: tell me more.
Are there questions people can ask that are more fruitful than something like, what do you do?
Yes. So curiosity and empathy will help you in lots of small talk situations. I think absolutely to make observations about what's going on in the environment, to think about topics that might not be so charged in one way or the other and ask people for opinions. I recently interviewed Priya Parker on my podcast. She's an expert on gathering. And one of the questions she loves to ask is, what is a low controversial, strong opinion that you hold? So for example, I happen to believe that ketchup is the king of condiments. And so I'd be curious, I could ask you, Eric, I could say, of all the condiments, what's your favorite? And all of a sudden we get into a really impassioned conversation that is engaging and interesting, but low stakes and likely not to bring a lot of conflict. So finding little things, making observations, that can be fun.
What is your take when it comes to talking about politics? Do we need to just avoid it and stay low controversial? Or, how do you recommend that people can navigate it if it comes up or if you want to bring it up?
Having high stakes conversations are important. That's how we learn. That's how we connect. That's how we deepen our relationships. But we have to go into it knowing that not everybody agrees and not everybody sees our position. So sharing our position, but from a place of curiosity and collaboration, I think is the right way to do it. It's okay to say, hey, I have a strong opinion on this particular political issue, but I'm open to hearing yours. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree. So approaching with openness and being clear in how we state our own positions, it's possible to state your position without denigrating others' positions, and that's important as well.
Still ahead, what to do when you feel embarrassed after a presentation or just something you said, the impact of technology on face-to-face interaction, and how communication advice is different for introverts and extroverts, and why both types of personalities are so important. All of that and much more coming up. But first, a quick break for our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Quince. I admit it, I love pumpkin spice lattes along with beautiful, colorful leaves in the fall. You know what else I love this season? Cozy cashmere sweaters from Quince, starting at just $50. And here's the best part. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, Quince is able to pass the savings on to us. And that's true for my other favorite items from Quince, like the organic cotton knit blazer I have. It's super comfortable, yet sophisticated. I can throw it on over my washable silk tank from Quince or another top with jeans and heels and feel like my best self. And it's perfect for this time of year as we transition from summer to fall and the always changing weather calls for layers. I also love that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. The Newsworthy is also brought to you by Honeylove. Get yourself the gift of comfort this year with Honeylove. Whether you're looking for that everyday legging that you can wear at home, running around town, or at the gym, or you're ready to upgrade your shapewear for all those holiday and New Year's gatherings and special events coming up, Honeylove should be your go-to. For example, I wear the Legging 2.0 every week. They're the most comfortable, stylish, and functional pair of pants that I own. And I always turn to Honeylove when I'm looking for shapewear. It has targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas you do want more support and areas you need less compression. So it gives you support and confidence with comfort and flexibility. And from now until December 4th, Honeylove is giving up to 60% off site-wide. It's the biggest sale of the year. So treat yourself to the best leggings, bras, shapewear, and more on the market and save up to 60% off site-wide at honeylove.com/newsworthy until December 4th only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style, thanks to Honeylove. Okay, now back to our conversation. I'm curious if technology has contributed to how young people, younger generations, are communicating face-to-face. Are you seeing an impact?
Absolutely, yes. Technology has fundamentally changed the way we communicate through the ages, but nothing like what we've seen recently. Younger folk can struggle in one-to-one interaction or small group interaction when we have to be face-to-face. They have been so device-driven. I spend a lot of time with my students and with my kids, really trying to help them to understand that communication is about connection, and that connection doesn't have to come through a device. And in fact, there's some pretty meaningful, special things that happen when you are face-to-face with someone. And, more so than it used to be, I'm having to teach and discuss more foundational skills like look somebody in the eye, nod when you're listening, make sure you finish a thought before you move on to the next thought. But these are all skills that people can learn and pretty quickly see the benefit from.
How is the impact of that affecting work?
In a workplace, as you well know, you can have 4 different generations working side by side. And each generation, to be broad stereotypes, use technology in different ways. So it can be very confusing and sometimes frustrating when a younger generation worker just wants a quick text message to get a yes, no, and an older worker who's been around for a while is expecting a little small talk before you get into the details. So organizations need to set expectations. They need to talk explicitly about communication and how we communicate as an organization, not to force people to do things differently, but at least to help people understand what expectations are. So having a meta conversation about communication is really important in the workplace, and taking time to reflect on what's working and what's not working. We move on so quickly from our communication not to think about what worked and what didn't, and we can fall victims to patterns that aren't healthy or helpful.
I think that everybody's been in a situation where you communicate in a way that you didn't want to, and then you are just kind of devastated afterwards, maybe embarrassed. What's your advice for people who maybe are dealing with that situation?
First, perfection is not possible. There is no perfect way to communicate. There are better ways and worse ways. So again, it goes back to that mindset. It's about connection, not perfection. I actually have a view on these things. Two ideas that come from 2 disparate places. So there was a very famous basketball coach, Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K, and he taught his players this notion of next play. So if you're a basketball player and you just make a really bad shot, instead of ruminating in the moment and beating yourself up, you need to move on to the next play, because if I am distracted by what just happened, I am missing what's happening now. And many of us can benefit from this next play mentality. Rather than ruminating in the moment, keep moving, move forward, and then later reflect what worked, what didn't, and how can I change. And then the other thing that takes the sting out of these mistakes is to see them not as mistakes, but as missed takes. In the world of film and television, directors often ask the actors and actresses to do multiple takes, the same scene in different ways. Not because any one scene is particularly bad or wrong, but they just want different options. So when you have something not go the way you want, instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh, I made a mistake, just say, I made a missed take. Now I'm just going to do take 2. And you can say it again. You can tell a story, use an analogy to get your point across, even though the first time didn't feel well. So when we step back and we say next play, just keep moving and reflect later, don't ruminate, and we see it in the moment as a missed take, it takes the sting out of some of this, and we realize that we're human and communication is not about perfection.
And then it comes back to the place of not having as much anxiety the next time. So it all is connected. I love that.
That's right. It is all a circle. And the more comfortable and confident you become, the less nervous and the better off you become in your communication.
Do you have different advice at all for introverts versus extroverts?
People often will say introversion bad, extroversion good, and that is not true. Introverts bring a tremendous amount of value. I am an extreme extrovert. I am married to an extreme introvert, and we'd work very well. I would spontaneously combust if I was married to somebody like me. But this notion of introversion, there's a lot of value of thinking before you speak, really focusing on the interpersonal relationships, really important. When it comes to people who are more introverted, I often find myself giving advice about how to engage and connect. Many introverts say, I've got something to say, I just don't know how to insert my thoughts into the conversation. When it comes to extroversion, I'm spending a lot of time with listening skills, taking a step back, figuring out what the bottom line is. You know, for myself, sometimes I speak and then think about it, and it's important to think before you speak. So the skills that I tend to focus on are a little different, but ultimately I value introverts and extroverts equally. And in my life personally, I highly value what introverts bring to the party because I need that grounding.
Are there certain tips or pieces of advice that you kind of hear over and over again from the guests that you have on your podcast when you're talking about all these different areas within the broad topic of communication?
We've talked about this already. It's all about your audience. It's about their needs, not what you want. The best way I ever heard this said was by a listening expert, Julian Treasure. He's got amazing TED Talks. He said it this way: what is the listening that I am speaking into? And I just think that's so eloquent because it really focuses on listening, and your job is to make whatever you're saying easy for your audience to listen to. The second thing that people often say, really important, has to be we have to make sure that our content is relevant and engaging. The most precious commodity we have in the world today, I believe, is attention. Getting people's attention and sustaining it is really hard. So we really have to think about how do we keep information relevant and salient for who we're speaking to. And then the last thing is there has to be some kind of structure. Our brains do not do well with just lists and itemizing. There has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end, a logical connection of the ideas that we're communicating. If you take those three into account, you think about your audience, you make your content salient and relevant, and you actually provide structure, you can communicate well in most situations.
Any final thought when it comes to the holiday season specifically?
When it comes to the holidays, it is all about connecting. It is about being present, and it's about finding ways to collaborate and enjoy each other while not always agreeing.
Well, thank you so much to Matt Abrahams for helping all of us have better conversations this holiday season and beyond. If you like today's episode, definitely go check out his podcast, Think Fast, Talk Smart, for even more actionable advice to improve your communication and career. He also has a book out called Think Faster, Talk Smarter. You can learn more about all of it on his website, mattabrahams.com. Join us again on Monday to catch up on the news you may have missed while gathering with your loved ones. We will be back providing you 10-minute daily news roundups every weekday after the holiday break. Until then, happy Thanksgiving and have a wonderful long weekend.